Welcome back to everyone already subscribed to Exposed Cheaters by NDU Tale. Thank you. Your time, trust, and your comments keep this community alive. As you listen, share your thoughts, feelings, and lessons below, so we can learn together. Settle in. The truth and the twist are coming. Let's get into it. When my wife told me she needed space, she didn't say it with tears. She said it while standing in the kitchen of our house in Houston, Texas, the one I paid most of the mortgage on for 8 years. Her voice was calm, detached, like I was an inconvenience. She'd finally decided to clear off her schedule. 2 weeks later, I was sleeping on my cousin's couch across town, staring at a ceiling fan that clicked every 30 seconds, trying to figure out how a man can lose his marriage, his home, and his dignity all in the same month. Before I tell you what she did next, if your spouse told you to pack and leave the house you helped build, would you fight or walk away silently? Comment fight or walk below, and subscribe, because this story doesn't end the way she expected. Here's how it happened. My wife, Danielle, had been distant for almost a year. Late networking events. Phone turned face down. Random gym memberships she never used before. When I asked questions, she accused me of being insecure, said I was emotionally suffocating. Then one night, she said it plainly. I need space from this marriage. What she meant was she had already replaced me. I later found out through a mutual friend that she'd been seeing a co-worker from a firm in Atlanta, Georgia during business trips. When I confronted her, she didn't cry, didn't deny it. She shrugged and told me maybe if I had leveled up, she wouldn't have looked elsewhere. That night, she told me to pack a bag. Not a discussion. Not a separation agreement. A bag. She said since the house was in her name before we married, even though I'd paid most of the renovations, I could leave and figure myself out. Her mother drove over from Dallas, Texas the next morning just to stand in my living room and watch me carry my things out like I was an embarrassment. Not one person in her family looked ashamed. They treated me like a man who had failed an exam everyone else had passed. Danielle didn't show remorse. Not once. She posted smiling pictures within weeks. Brunches, rooftop dates, vacations in Miami, Florida. Meanwhile, I was working overtime, showering at the gym, pretending everything was fine when coworkers asked why I looked thinner. I lost weight, lost sleep, lost confidence. But I didn't lose clarity. What Danielle didn't know was that when she first said she needed space, I had already felt the shift. I'd hired a quiet attorney downtown. I'd gathered bank records, text screenshots, travel receipts, evidence of marital funds spent on her affair. And before she ever told me to pack a bag, I had signed the divorce papers. The same week she forced me out, my lawyer filed. In Texas, infidelity still matters in asset division. Danielle thought I left empty-handed. What actually happened? Her firm launched an internal review after my attorney formally submitted documentation showing company funds were used during her business trips. The co-worker she risked everything for? He denied the relationship immediately, said she pursued him, threw her under the bus to save his own position. He kept his job. She didn't. No dramatic courtroom shouting. No viral moment. Just quiet consequences. Her bonuses vanished. The house she fought to keep became too expensive without her salary. 6 months later, it was on the market. I didn't drive by. I didn't call. I didn't gloat. I moved quietly to Charlotte, North Carolina, transferred within my company, and rebuilt without telling anyone my plans. Therapy, early mornings, certifications, discipline. Within 2 years, I was earning more than I ever had in Houston. Bought a modest townhouse in my name alone, furnished it slowly, peacefully. No arguments, no suspicion, no tension in the air. Danielle sent exactly one message after the divorce finalized. Can we talk? I never responded. Last I heard, she was back in Dallas living with her mother again. No rooftop brunches, no Atlanta trips, no apologies either. And the wildest part? The day I signed those divorce papers was the first day I slept through the night in months. She said she needed space. So I gave her all of it. Expand this story by structuring it to 40 paragraphs of roughly 100 words, each a straightforward way to maintain clarity and pace, especially when working toward a specific word count, in this case around 4,000 words. Ensure that each paragraph is focused and self-contained, making it easier for readers to follow the narrative. Start the story stating the cruel thing his spouse or partner did, then add here's how it happened before starting the story. She told me to pack a bag and get out of my own house by sunset, then stood in the doorway with her arms folded while I carried my clothes past her like I was a stranger. She didn't cry. She didn't hesitate. She said if I needed more time, I could sleep in my car. Here's how it happened. For months before that night in Houston, Texas, I felt her pulling away in ways that were small but sharp. Danielle stopped laughing at my jokes. She started guard her phone like it held state secrets. If I walked into a room, conversations ended mid-sentence. I told myself marriage has seasons. I told myself stress from her job was the reason. We had been married 8 years. I met Danielle at a charity event downtown when we were both volunteering after Hurricane Harvey recovery efforts. She admired my steadiness. I admired her ambition. Back then, she said she loved how grounded I was. She said I made her feel safe. Somewhere along the way, safety became boring in her vocabulary. The house we lived in sat on a quiet cul-de-sac in a decent neighborhood outside central Houston. Danielle bought it before we married, but after the wedding, I paid most of the renovations. I redid the kitchen cabinets myself, installed new flooring, spent weekends landscaping the yard. I built that place into a home of my hands. The distance began when she started traveling more frequently to Atlanta, Georgia, for corporate strategy meetings. At first, I was proud. Her firm trusted her. She was climbing. But the trips grew longer. The explanations grew shorter. When I asked how meetings went, she'd snap that I was interrogating her. Then came the phone, always face down. Passwords changed. Notifications muted. Once, I picked it up to check the time, and she lunged for it like I grabbed a weapon. She accused me of invading her privacy. I apologized, even though something inside me already knew privacy wasn't the real issue. Pause right here. She forced him out, replaced him, and started posting like nothing happened. Do you think karma ever catches up to people like this? Type karma, if you believe it does, because what happened next changed everything. One Friday evening, she returned from Atlanta later than expected. Her suitcase smelled faintly of a cologne I didn't own. I stood in the laundry room holding one of her blouses, trying to decide if I was imagining it. When I asked who she had dinner with on the trip, she said I was being paranoid and insecure. Her words chipped at me. She said successful men don't question their wives. She said I lacked ambition. She started comparing me to other husbands in her firm. I worked full-time managing logistics for a distribution company. It was steady. It paid well. But in her eyes, it wasn't impressive enough anymore. The night she said she needed space, she didn't even look nervous. She stood by the kitchen island, scrolling her phone. I need space from this marriage, she said casually, like she was requesting a different brand of coffee. I felt the ground shift beneath me. I asked if there was someone else. She exhaled sharply and said my insecurity was exhausting. Then she added that maybe if I had leveled up, she wouldn't feel trapped. That word, trapped, hit harder than anything else. I had spent years making sure she never felt unsupported. 2 days later, I got confirmation through a mutual friend from church. Danielle had been seen in Atlanta with a co-worker more than once. Dinners that weren't work-related. A hotel lobby embrace that wasn't professional. My chest tightened, but I didn't confront her immediately. I needed clarity. Instead of exploding, I contacted an attorney downtown. Quietly, I gathered bank statements, travel receipts, and credit card charges. I screenshotted messages that popped up on our shared tablet before she realized it synced. I didn't argue. I didn't accuse. I prepared. When I finally confronted her with what I knew, she didn't deny it. She said she had outgrown me. She said the man in Atlanta understood her drive. She didn't apologize. She said she deserved happiness, as if I had been withholding it from her on purpose. That was the week she told me to leave. She said since the house was purchased before marriage, I had no claim. She said if I needed somewhere to go, I should figure out. Her mother drove in from Dallas, Texas, the next morning and watched me pack like I was a failed project. I carried boxes to my car, while neighbors pretended not to stare. Danielle didn't offer help. She didn't soften. She stood on the porch with her mother, arms crossed, whispering as if I wasn't 10 feet away. I left with 2 suitcases and a toolbox. For the first month, I stayed on my cousin's couch on the south side of Houston. I worked overtime and avoided going home until late at night. I felt humiliated. I had helped build a house I was now locked out of. Danielle posted smiling photos online days later. She went public with the co-worker quickly. Rooftop dinners in Midtown Atlanta. Beach photos from Miami, Florida. Her caption spoke about choosing peace and living authentically. Not once did she acknowledge the damage left behind. She acted like I had simply disappeared. Meanwhile, I met with my attorney weekly. In Texas, infidelity can influence asset division. I had documentation showing marital funds used during her trips, receipts for hotel upgrades, restaurant charges, even airfare booked through shared accounts. I stayed silent publicly but strategically privately. The divorce filing blindsided her. She assumed I would beg for reconciliation. Instead, she was served papers at work. She called me furious, accusing me of trying to embarrass her. I didn't argue. I simply said I was protecting myself. Then consequences unfolded in ways she never anticipated. My attorney submitted documentation indicating some travel expenses were misrepresented as company-related. Her firm opened an internal review. The co-worker she'd risked everything for distanced himself immediately. He claimed she pursued him, claimed any personal time was mutual and outside work. He saved himself. She faced scrutiny alone. Her firm valued reputation. They did not value scandal. Within months, she was terminated quietly. Without her bonuses, the mortgage became difficult. The house she forced me out of suddenly felt heavy. Legal negotiations shifted. The equity from renovations and shared payments was acknowledged. I didn't gloat. I simply signed where instructed. The house eventually went on the market. I heard through mutual contact it sold for less than expected. Danielle moved back to Dallas temporarily. Not to reflect, not to apologize, just to regroup. She still didn't admit wrongdoing. During all this, I focused inward. Therapy helped untangle the humiliation. I worked out consistently. I pursued certifications in supply chain analytics. I stopped obsessing over her social media and started investing in my growth quietly. After 2 years, I transferred within my company to Charlotte, North Carolina. The move was intentional. Fresh city, no shared history. I rented a modest apartment first, saving aggressively. Peace became my priority over pride. Eventually, I bought a small townhouse in my name alone. No joint accounts, no shared titles. Just me signing documents calmly, aware of every clause. I furnished it slowly, appreciating the silence at night. Danielle sent one message after the divorce finalized. Can we talk? No apology, no acknowledgement of harm, just curiosity. I didn't respond. Closure didn't require a conversation. It required distance. Last I heard, she was rebuilding her career in Dallas in a smaller firm. The co-worker was long gone from her life. The rooftop photo stopped. The captions about authenticity faded. There were no dramatic collapses, just quiet consequences. I never exposed her publicly. I never told our church the details. I never humiliated her online. Karma didn't need my help. It unfolded through choices she made and systems she underestimated. The deepest change happened privately. I learned to recognize early disrespect. I learned that calm preparation can be stronger than loud confrontation. I learned that love without boundaries invites erosion. Some nights, I sit in my townhouse in Charlotte and think about that evening in Houston when she told me to pack. The humiliation no longer burns. It reminds me of a turning point. She believed forcing me out would break me. Instead, It removed me from a slow collapse I didn't see clearly at the time. What felt like exile became protection. There was no applause for my recovery, no public redemption arc, just steady work, quiet growth, and restful sleep. Success became personal, not performative. Danielle never showed remorse. Not once. But she also never regained the stability she threw away. That's not revenge. It's a consequence. When she said she needed space, she meant space from accountability. What she got was permanent distance from the life we built. And when I signed those divorce papers before she even told me to leave, I wasn't being cold. I was choosing survival. Now, in a different city, in a home no one can push me out of, I understand something clearly. Sometimes the cruelest rejection is the doorway to the most private victory. If the story hit you, not because of revenge, but because of growth, then this channel is for you. Real stories, real consequences, real comebacks. Subscribe now and watch the next story on your screen, because sometimes silence is the loudest victory of all.